They bring a unique perspective. They are at the forefront. They are today's leaders. Brought to you by Get Assist, the people in Calgary that bring passion and dedication to what they do. Today's leaders with Angela Kokott on News Talk 770.
A spark can start a campfire, bring life to colorful fireworks, or spark a child's imagination. When Telus Spark opened in 2011, its goal was to pick up where the former Calgary Science Centre left off, a great place for a child, but also for the child in all of us, but with a few twists. It's a popular destination for Calgarians and anyone visiting our city. However, it hasn't been without its controversies. The woman who has been steering it from the beginning is my guest on today's Leaders. I am pleased to welcome Telus Spark CEO and President Jennifer Martin. Hello, Jennifer.
Hello, Angela.
What's the best part of your job?
Oh, you know, I have to say, and it's going to sound a little cliche, but there's times when, you know, I'm in management, I'm leading, I'm in meetings, I'm having lots of conversations. When I get just a little needing a boost, I go down to the exhibit floor. The best part is the energy to hear the families engage with each other, to see our staff getting down on their knees with a little kid. You know, it really is why I'm in this business, and it gives me that boost every time I need it.
I always love these conversations because, we're going to get into the business side of things and how you got to where you are. But sometimes you can just go off on other conversations, and that's what I like, especially when it comes to educating technology and what kids can learn and how Telus Spark is so instrumental in that area. So speaking of education, you end up being a pretty bright kid in high school. Does that open a lot of doors for you in post-secondary?
You know, it was a challenge. It was a time when you could go with what you were interested in. So while I certainly had some social pressure to follow my father into medicine, I also, as I mentioned, he was an obstetrician, and I thought, geez, that's not the quality of life I want. He's gone a lot. Mm-hmm. So I went with my passion. Well, I'd been climbing trees and catching snakes and frogs as a kid, so biology made sense. Although I was a bit of a jock, so I thought, should I go into that? So I kind of split both and went to Laurentian University in Sudbury, Ontario. And then realized that the biology really, I just continued to love to explore, to get out, to see patterns in nature, to try and figure them out. So that questioning in the natural world context just kept going. And so I did an undergrad in biology.
Where did that take you, though? Because some people say, undergrads in biology, what do you've got to do something with that. But what did Jennifer Martin do with that?
Well, it's partly what did the economy give me options to do at that point. Frankly, nothing at that stage. I did venture the idea of going into veterinary college for a little bit and then realized my heart wasn't in that. But I didn't have a next step passion to go deep into one aspect of science. So I was kind of, mulling. And It was 1982, to date me, huge recessionary period. Nobody was hiring biologists. And driving down the road from the university in Sudbury, there was a big sign one day that said, future home of the Sudbury Science Centre. And I drove past that a number of times before the word science kind of jumped off and hit me between the eyes. And I do that. I wonder if I could get a job. And that's really as intelligent as it is. I needed a job. There was an opportunity.
But it was the future. It was just a plot of land.
Yeah. They had excavated. They'd blown. They had dynamited the hole. Like Northern Ontario, Sudbury is a lot about mining.
Okay.
So that much was there. So I worked my contacts at the university, found out that they were looking for summer students, back to catching snakes and frogs. They needed somebody to help understand the natural biological life of Northern Ontario, and to figure out how we could put that on display to give more people what I naturally had of curiosity, to try to raise the curiosity for others.
And so you got that job.
Yeah.
That's a pretty cool story.
So, recently, when we were doing Telus Spark, one of the members of my board of directors said, geez, this is a once-in-a-lifetime thing. I said, well, actually, when I was 23, I was part of a brand new science center. I didn't know what I didn't know. So this was my second opportunity.
You were with the Ontario Science Centre for 20 years, you said.
Yes.
And then did you come right to Calgary then for... Well,
yes.
Actually, it was the Calgary Science Centre at that point, wasn't it?
No, well, it was Telus World of Science.
Oh, Telus World of Science. That's right.
Yep.
Right.
So, yes, I came late 2007.
Why?
And, one, I was ready for change from, all the things that I had done at the Ontario Science Centre. And, pragmatically, my kids at the time were 11 and 13, and I thought, well, if I'm going to make a change that means a move, better do it now and not when they're in their teens and things get really messy. So that worked out pretty well. And the opportunity to take, over 25 years of what I had learned about the business and to say, you know what, maybe we can go another step with this and see what happens.
When you came in 2007, the working had already begun. I mean, some of the background work to the future Telus Spark was well underway at that point.
Certainly the need analysis, can we build it on the old site, the former planetarium, all of those things had been sorted out. The actual site had been chosen. The city had said, yep, this is the place to go. City of Calgary had provided a huge amount of commitment, but then asked us to lever that into some more funding. So we still had a lot of work to do.
Was it, I don't want to say was it easy coming into it, because I wonder, especially someone from the outside, someone who may have been not familiar with the project right from the beginning, did you face any obstacles in those early months and maybe year or so?
Well, I'm probably a little bit stubborn, and I didn't know what I didn't know and just moved on with it. We didn't have a design. We had some general ideas about what subject matter we wanted to uncover. Certainly the Creative Kids Museum was a very important part that was already there. But trying to figure out now where do we want to go with this information? So I did have a lot of room to move, and I work at a vision level. It's like ultimately the question I asked, what role can a Science Center now play in its community? Science Centers came out of the era of Sputnik. The late 60s, early 70s, the fascination with science. So science centers were places where we'd create exhibits that would help to illustrate and get you engaged with a scientific phenomenon. Well, that's something we already knew about science. But now science is changing so rapidly to do what we know as opposed to be ready for what might come. And so that was really the expectation, and my hope was to create a place that we can help families and kids get experiences that will ready them for the uncertainty that we're facing.
Back to the technology conversation, because, I'm sure you've got to think about what technology, how we marry that with our programs. But, you're also looking back because you were saying screwdrivers and hammers and wrenches. So do you have to figure out the different programs and how they are going to resonate with everyone, I guess? Well,
and that's always a challenge within the museum or science center context, is you need to be diverse enough to hit different interests. Not everybody likes everything, and that's never going to happen. But you want the parents involved, but they're going to be involved differently than the kids. You want somebody who's got an engineering background to be interested versus somebody who's got a fine arts background. So you can't be all things to all people.
Right.
You have to make decisions, but at the same time try to provide enough different entry points, we would call them, so that one experience can be used different ways by different people. So a good example of that would be, speaking of technology, hot glue guns and toothpicks. Doesn't sound like much.
And that was hot glue guns and toothpicks. Okay.
Exactly. And to a certain degree, we received, to the controversy, we received some pushback from parents saying, look, I just paid significant money to come in. It's not easy to run a not-for-profit organization on nothing. And they're doing arts and crafts. And this is where the science comes back. They say, but what are they doing? Look at the amazing structure that your 6-year-old kid just created. What were they thinking about ahead of time? They had an image in their mind. They've used their hands to create something. Did they get it? Did they get to what they wanted, or did they suddenly veer off in another direction? If you peel that away, what we're looking at are the qualities of innovation. Risk-taking, problem-solving, having an idea and following it through, collaborating. So they're seeing other kids doing things. Sometimes they're talking with each other. Sometimes they're talking with parents or other adults. Those qualities are what we base Telus Spark on. How can we create an environment where those qualities can be tested and tried, where you can mess something up, it doesn't matter. That's the whole idea. We have to learn from failure as opposed to feeling like we're going to get everything right. And what role can the Science Center play in its community? Well, jeepers. We're here in the hydrocarbon heartland of Canada. So our Science Center, now that we're more stable and ready to tackle some big things, energy, the dialogue, trying to bring less polarity to the conversation, talk about the rational middle where people are curious, both from how do we really get the stuff out of the oil sands and what's the process there, to climate change and the questions about that. We're a great independent place to have tough conversations. And so Adults Only Night, the Energy Series, in fact, there's one, we're bringing some Teslas in April 21st. So we do have very specific audiences, but we have the same infrastructure to work with right across the board.